You're listening to Community Unboxed, the podcast that showcases the power of community by voicing the people that make it so. Each episode highlights our community connectors who are appointed to do just that, connect communities. There are 5 episodes available, 1 from Mancroft, 2 from North Airlam and 2 from Mancroft. Follow us as we drop in on our nearby social groups and discover what special item our connectors and members of the community have chosen to put in our imaginary shoebox. Hi, I'm Saskia. I'm a community connector for Mancroft.
And I'm Chloe, and I'm also a community connector for Mancroft.
So I first became aware of community connecting when a flyer came through my daughter's door. She handed it to me and said, "I think you'd be great for this, Mum." And I cast a glance over it and went, "Oh, yeah, sure, I'll apply for that," because I was out of work at the time. Yeah, I got the job. It was initially for a part-time role for 6 months, and here we are, 3 years later.
It is actually exactly 3 years, which seems wild now, looking back.
I feel like we've come a long way.
Yeah, definitely. I think I got an email. It came up in an email from my daughter's school, like the flyer for the job. And I just stopped volunteering and working for a charity, and that had come to an end. And I saw it, and it was 15 hours at the beginning. And it said chatting to people. And I was like, oh, I love chatting to people. And it was focused on people in the area. And I was like, wow, this seems a bit too good to be true. So again, I applied. That was my first job that I actually applied for since coming out of sort of having a bit of a mental health breakdown myself. So it was like the first job that I actually felt ready to get into, and I applied for it. And then I got a call literally probably 2 days later. I was like, "Do you want to come for an interview?" And I was like, "Oh my gosh, wow. This is actually happening." And then I done the interview and got the job, and here I am 3 years later. I always say, I feel like I was really meant to meet Saskia in life, and I'm happy that I have you.
I feel the same. I think we complement each other really, really well. I think your local knowledge is amazing, because I've only lived in Norwich for 3.5 years. Chloe's born and bred.
In this area, yeah.
There's not much she doesn't know about Norwich City.
When you actually really dive deep into it, I just love how many people actually want to do something in their community. I think before I got this job, I sort of knew there was community stuff going on, but I wasn't involved in it, which makes me think sometimes, how did I get the job? But here I am. But when we actually sort of delved into the nooks and crannies of the area, it's just phenomenal how many people want to make change and want to do good things. And that's normally on a volunteer basis. They're just doing it because they want to. And that's also, I think, made this job in itself has changed me as a person as well. Like, I now want to do things just because you can and you should. Because I love this area. I think it's so quirky. I think it's so multicultural. There's so many lovely businesses. There's so many organisations that are amazing in the area, whether that be, mental health organisations, social supermarkets, just community groups, sort of like Vision Norfolk is amazing as well. The list is endless.
That's been amazing. But also the door knocking, that's just been incredible. We were so... we were scared to do it, weren't we?
Yeah.
Let's be real.
I can remember the first day, like, oh, gosh, this is going to be interesting. But
but then we just thought, in for a penny, in for a pound, let's just give it a go. And we did that with Martin, didn't we? The community conversations officer at the time in the Mancroft area.
Yeah.
And I think, very quickly we decided to approach it with humour and...
Yeah. And I think you need that when you knock on someone's door, and 90%, not 90% at the time actually, probably it's very 50-50. They're like, oh, they're never going to be happy to see you. And they're like, because when you knock on someone's door, it's like, what do you want? What are you trying to sell? And you have to flip that round really quickly. And so I'd always be a bit funny. Oh, I'm not trying to sell you anything. We're just out here, connecting.
Yeah, definitely. They either think you're trying to sell something or that you are some kind of a religious person, or that you want to hear, the stuff, the terrible stuff that's going on and how can you fix the area kind of thing. But it's like once you kind of change that rhetoric around, and people are like, oh, people basically love to talk, don't they?
Yeah, they really do. And often it starts on a negative level, but the amount of, times that has just been flipped around and they start speaking about happy times in the area or things or community stuff that they do know of. And that is, everyone likes to moan, don't they? But at the end of it, it was definitely positive.
Yeah, definitely. But I think we have kind of come across a couple of areas where where residents do feel kind of slightly forgotten about.
Yeah.
And they'll say things like, oh, it's, the area's not like it used to be. And we'll be like, oh, well, how was that? How did it used to be? What was good about it? And they'll normally say things like, oh, well, the council used to come around twice a week and do the flower beds or something like that. And then we can start having a conversation about, well, is there anyone around here that might want to take on doing something with the flower beds with a group of neighbours, or, people almost need to be given permission. They don't realise that they can kind of take ownership of spaces that are around them.
Yeah, a lot of it is giving people the knowledge that they are able to do these things, because a lot of people think that they're not allowed to do these things, or it's really hard to set something up, whereas in reality, it's actually really easy, but sometimes you just don't know, and we're there to give that information and, support people to do that. And there was actually a patch that we did cover where, a lot of people are like, oh, well, why should we do that when it's the council's job? And then we'd go back, didn't we? We went back a couple of months later, and they had actually started doing the community garden. So it is definitely as well like that ripple effect.
Yeah, definitely. And I think a lot of the time people will kind of, they'll put their coats on, they'll hurry through the area where they live to get to the city and to use the shops there, and then they'll hurry back through their area, and then they'll kind of lock the front door, and it's like almost as if it doesn't exist outside of their front door. It's like people, sometimes it's nice to have conversations. It's like, well, this is all of your area,
Definitely.
It's to get people thinking a bit more community-minded rather than just...
And like I said, until I started this job role, I didn't think that way. And sometimes you just need some inspiration.
Exactly.
To make you feel that way. Because I feel completely different about my area since I've become a community connector.
Connecting changes you.
It really does. It really does. Like it's just opened so much of my life in a positive way, though, I feel. And it's helped me personally as well. So that's why I want everyone else to see it that way, so that can help them the way it's helped me, is how I look at it.
Yeah. They have a word for community-minded in, I think it's either Danish or Swedish. It's called samfundssind or something like that.
Here she goes with her knowledge.
It's probably half knowledge. I've probably got the word completely wrong, but the concept is that. So they have a word for community-minded, and if you are not being community-minded, then they'll say, oh, you're not being samfundssind or whatever it is.
Is this getting somewhere?
Well, the point is, we don't have a word for that in this country. We don't have a word for community-minded, because it's like, it's almost the exception to the rule, isn't it? Like, oh, that person's really community-minded. Well, you wouldn't say that about the general population, I don't think.
But there are people who are.
So many people
And there's so many people are. And I think there'd be so many more people who'd be open to be more community driven if they just had the knowledge of what could be achievable in their area.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. Yeah.
For me, I think door knocking, the amount of homes that we knocked on, and they were just elderly people who don't leave their house, had no idea what went on outside their doorstep, expressed how lonely they were, how they've not left the house for 3 years other than to do their shopping, and just letting them know about local groups that they then attended. A big part of our role, in fact, all of our role pretty much, is being out in the community, on foot, meeting as many people as possible.
It is a kind of method where you get out amongst people and you really get to know a community so that you can look around and see what's strong rather than what's wrong. I think
I love that.
Traditionally, historically.
We used to say that. What's strong, not wrong. At the very beginning of the project, we done a whole sort of quite extensive discovery phase. So we got these big maps, we had Google Maps. We literally just pinpointed every community space, every park in the area so me and Saskia, we are based in the Mancroft ward. So we would put a little pin on every community centre, every park, school, doctors, community group that was already happening, churches. And then once we'd done that, we then started going to all these places and meeting all the people that were at each of those.
Yeah, I think that was it was quite an important part to sort of Google. I mean, that's the bit that was office based, I suppose.
Yeah.
Except it was more your kitchen.
Yeah.
So we would look at the stuff that was kind of on maps, stuff that we sort of you could find out about online.
Yeah.
But I'd say, most of the stuff was found just
being out in that. Oh, you took the words right out of my mouth. I was about to say the same thing. The amount of stuff that we actually found out that was going on that we'd not seen at all anywhere online. And that was also shop windows, was really like people's flyers in shop windows.
Yes.
Like since starting this role, I cannot go past a shop window
and not scouring what's in the window. Yeah,
like
definitely.
Every community board that I probably never really took any notice of prior to starting this role. But now I look at everything, even if I go to like somewhere out of Norfolk and they've got, I'm like, oh, what are they doing around this area?
Yes, absolutely, yeah. Also, we found out a lot of information by exchanging information with people that were at the groups that we would go to. And that knowledge share was quite an interesting thing, wasn't it? We'd say, oh, did you know about this? And we did put together a list of city centre activities and we found that really
very useful,
and we shared that with people and then they would share what they knew with us and then we were able to build on what we'd put on our sheets,
activity sheet. Because we would go to all the groups on this or drop into all the groups on this activity sheet at some point, seeing the people that we had signposted to these actually going and making friends, like seeing them like blossom from going to these groups, I think is something that you just can't quite believe until you've seen it for yourself. And it did, like doing this,
connecting in action,
connection and action. And it, like, this job has physically changed my whole outlook on life, my whole outlook of how I see things. It's inspired, like I've felt inspired by people in so many ways.
Yes, I think being a community connector is interesting because I think in the beginning you're sort of, okay, so we're trained in asset-based community development and using that sort of way of working. It's like, you know, you search for the, like in theory, you search for the sparks in community. So it's discover, connect and mobilise is the way of working within asset-based community development. And I think we did a very comprehensive discovery phase.
In hindsight, maybe the discovery phase was a bit longer than it should have been, but also we learnt so much from the discovery phase that even if we look back and think, oh, that was a little bit too long, we still learnt so much from it.
Absolutely.
One of the main things that we did a lot of towards the last sort of year of the project was the door knocking. So, about a month ago, we found out about the Colgate Wellbeing Choir, is it called?
Yeah, so it's which is a women's wellbeing choir. I think they're called the Colgate Singers to give them their correct title. And they sounded amazing.
Yeah, but we didn't know about these a couple of months ago, and then we just happened to drop in to one of their sessions, and it's a well-established group. Anyone can join, and they happen on a Wednesday morning at
10:30
at the Octagon Chapel on Colgate. And
it means so much to the women in the community that have joined the choir. Yes, the discovery phase is kind of ongoing, really. It can go on indefinitely because new things come up, and you can walk around an area and initially it can feel like, oh, there's not much happening here, there's no sparks here, there's not much in the way of assets. But a lot of areas you look around and you quickly find out that what is the asset in that area is the people.
Yeah.
And we found that with door knocking. We embarked on
door knocking. I think before we did door knocking, we were really on the fence about door knocking.
I don't think we were on the fence. I think we were firmly in the camp of no, I don't want to do that.
Because it is nerve-wracking. Because you're in someone's personal space. When you knock on their door, we didn't want them to think we're selling them anything. We didn't want them to feel like we're invading their space. But I can remember the first day that we actually set out to do it.
Can you remember the first door we knocked on?
I can't remember the first door. I can remember the first day and just being like, oh, we're going to get told to beep off.
And that's never happened once.
And it's not ever happened once, no. And how pleasantly surprised. And after that first day of door knocking, my whole view on doing that changed. It humbled me so much, the people that we met, and just how different everyone's lives are. Like, you'd knock on some people, like I had a couple of doors and you'd knock on and you'd have a conversation, and they haven't left the house for, years. Yeah. They don't know anything that goes on in the community. They're full-time carers. They have mental health issues, and I had moments in the role where I was like, what is my purpose? And I wasn't really sure what the connector role meant and what I was doing, because it was just so new.
Yeah, it's definitely something that we've had the autonomy to shape as we go along.
Yeah.
So back to door knocking.
Yeah, back to door knocking.
So, we were really apprehensive, weren't we? And people are very used to they are used to people knocking on the doors, but normally I think people knock on doors. Well, politicians do it, don't they? When they're
councillors,
just before, when they're canvassing for votes, and they'll knock on the door and they'll say, "Oh, what's wrong around here?" So a lot of people that we spoke to were kind of ready for, oh yes, it's the fly tipping, it's the antisocial behaviour, and what have you. So this, and that was. What they said was no surprise, really. But then we would sort of listen to their concerns, and if it was, because we had the community conversations officer with us, if it was something that needed addressing or signposting to the council, we could kind of shorten that feedback loop, and he could step in and say, well, this is who you need to speak to, or I will speak to someone. So it was really good to sort of work in partnership with the council when we were knocking on doors. But after a while, we would say, okay, so there's these things going on for you. What's good about living here? What's great about living here?
Yeah.
And sometimes people would go, nothing, and we would go, oh, come on.
There's got to be something.
We'd have a laugh with people, and, we'd say, well, can you just think of one thing, just one thing? And then, the conversation would take a more positive turn.
Yeah.
And also we'd get to know people. You know, we would sort of take a street and we would knock on the doors. So we'd do 10 o'clock in the morning sometimes, and then we might go back to that same street in the evenings to sort of catch people at different times of day. So we would try and get it so that we knew the people on the street that lived in a certain area, and they knew us. You know, you talk to older people and they'd say, oh, the council used to come around twice a week and tend the roses here or whatever. And of course, they don't do that now. But the people that live there would still like to see something happening.
Yeah. And then that's where people have then gone on, though, with support from us to plant their own things in little community flower beds and get together with their neighbours and take that on themselves. And that's then created a bond with their neighbours that they didn't initially have. And it's so nice to see things like that flourish.
Oh, another of the things we discovered was a need for people to connect with each other in an area. And some of the kind of estates, I suppose, will have...
Some of them don't have active community centres where people can connect with other people at, free or low cost.
Yeah, and there is a real need, a real want with people to connect, to have a social space. So we set up a 6-week pop-up and invited everybody along.
In order to, let me just butt in a little bit there, and in order to set up this social space, we connected with a church that we'd connected with. And
during our discovery phase.
That we then built up trust with, and they offered us that space for free to set up this 6-week social space pop-up.
Yeah, and the first one was really great, wasn't it?
Yeah, the first one was amazing.
The people were, some people that were taken on these green spaces were talking about plant swapping and seed swapping, neighbours that had lived around the corner from each other for years and had never spoken were talking to each other. And yeah, it was really positive, wasn't it?
Yeah. We did send a lot of emails out to organisations, and we did actually find that wasn't as effective as we thought.
But right. I like to think it went straight into their spam box, but I forgive you all.
Yeah. But we actually ended up, instead, because of that outcome, we ended up just dropping into all these organisations, and we did find that worked a hell of a lot better. Absolutely. And we did then manage to build up a lot of trust.
I keep saying absolutely, because it's true. Abso-bloody-lutely. Dropping into a place, there's no substitute for it. Dropping in, this is who we are, this is what we do. You can join in, get involved, or you can tell us to go away. Either is fine, and we're not offended by it.
No, not offended. Maybe a tiny bit.
A little bit offended.
A bit
offended. But
yeah.
You're listening to Community Unboxed. Now, if you're feeling inspired or curious about the stories that you're hearing in this episode, and perhaps you want to find out more about the insights gathered in our neighbourhoods, you can. Head to communityconversations.info to learn more about this Shoebox partnership project with Norwich City Council.
I think something that we haven't touched base on yet as well is the sort of conversational side of the project and the Community Connect project.
Yeah, the sort of admin side of things, if you will. So we do have a team of community connectors currently. There's 6 of us, 2 in the Mancroft area, 2 in Mancroft and 2 in North Earlham. And the connectors visit different areas and talk to as many people as possible in order to find out what matters to people.
We wanted to have as many conversations as physically possible with the people that we were meeting in our community. And then we'd anonymise those and they would feed into a data hub.
It fed into the Insights Hub with the City Council, and that is a live Insights Hub. So anyone can look at that, and you can find that by going on the City Council website.
But from that, why that is so important is from that, and one of my guests that is going to be coming in next week, you can pull the information from the Insights Hub, and that can support organisations that want to set up groups in order to get the grants going and get evidence of why. So if, say, a theme was no art activities in the area, someone who wanted to set up an art group,
yes, could look at that information, and you could ask further data to be pulled out, and you could see how many people in that area are saying they want more low-cost community activities for families, for instance, and that could back up your funding bids.
One of my guests that I'm bringing in for the next episode is a lady called Abigail Taylor, and she now runs Arts Table, which is a low-cost children's art group that happens on Silver Road in St Mary Magdalene Church, and it's a group that I'd attend every week. I also take my daughter to this group, and she absolutely loves it. And I have got some snippets of sounds that go on in this group, so I'll let you guys have a listen.
I think we love coming here because it's such a friendly, informal, relaxed community space that we get to meet loads of other people that don't actually go to Mousehold. There's actually other children here from Magdalene Gate School, so it's really nice to get a mixture of people. It's loads of fun. It's different every week. Abigail's always got great ideas.
I think Art Club brought a sense of community, which was absolutely brilliant. Gabriel was never much into art until starting Art Club, and I think he's just developed his imagination brilliantly. He's also gotten so many new friends, and I think for me as a mum, getting to know everyone else involved as well, and it kind of started our own little friendship club. So it's been absolutely brilliant.
What is your favourite thing about coming to Art Club?
The art. My favourite thing about coming to Art Club is doing art and talking to people and having fun doing art.
What's your favourite thing about coming to Art Club?
The biscuits, and also that we can do loads of lovely art clubs because we do hardly any art at school.
Hey Roxy, what is your favourite thing about coming to Art Club?
That I get to have biscuits and spend time with my friends.
As we just heard there from the families and young people, this is a great example of how asking what a community wants works in comparison to prescribing what officials think a community needs.
So what have you been up to in the last week, Saskia?
I've been visiting the hotspot, the Coffee Morning at St George's in Colgate, which is a fabulous community.
I have to say it's one of my favourite.
Yeah.
We shouldn't have favourites.
We shouldn't have favourites, but we do. Initially, it was a coffee morning that her and a gentleman called Brian had set up. They set it up as a carers coffee morning, and it grew into a hotspot, and it grew into this kind of organically moving community space. So they offered free tea and coffee, but then quite quickly people began to bring their own things. They would do a bake and share. Yeah. It grew from very small numbers to, I think at one count they had 40 people attending.
Yeah.
And the reason why it works so well is that Annie and Brian are so welcoming. They're so open. It's open to everybody, whatever faith. So whoever you are, you're welcome at St George's and Colgate, and that's part of the reason why it's so fabulous. They now have a toddlers music group that goes in there. They have a dad's singing group. So the church becomes this kind of vibrant space that is truly open to the community, and it's a beautiful thing to see.
It's a beautiful thing, and things have blossomed from that starting, which I think is amazing. And
absolutely,
shows,
we've done a lot of knowledge sharing in that space.
Yeah,
and we do have some snippets from there as well. I'm here with Sally today, a volunteer at St George's. Hello, Sally.
Hello.
How long have you been volunteering here?
Well, I'm one of the church wardens here, and so since we started the hotspot, which I think is roughly 2.5 years ago, I've come down to volunteer. And we had about 8 people, I think, the first day, and we have far more than that regulars now. and it's really lovely. I really thoroughly enjoy it. I discovered, although I lived 2 minutes up the road for over 40 years, I've met people in the neighbourhood that I can now see here every week, speak to if I see them in the street, and also I've been round to a couple of people's houses, and it's been absolutely wonderful for me. And I've met new friends myself, so I'm sure seeing other people interact and meet new friends is just so good for everybody. Plus the coffee's pretty good here too.
Yes, it is. It's pretty good.
I think it's lovely. First time I've been in it, and I drove past it, and I didn't believe that was big, like that it's outside, but I've heard about it.
You're listening to Community Unboxed, and in this part of the podcast, Chloe, we're revealing our special item to store in our imaginary shoebox. In our next episode, we'll be asking our guests to do the same thing, and so will the other community connectors in Mancroft and North Earlham. So, take it away, Chloe.
I wasn't up all last night worrying about this at all.
No, not at all.
So, my item is, how should I describe it? So it's a brown leather bag, and on the front of it is a Frida Kahlo design. I absolutely love Frida Kahlo. For anyone who knows me will know that. The design on the front is very colourful. It's got Frida's face, and then around it has birds, butterflies, flowers, and it's just a crossbody bag, and I've never seen one before like this, actually. It's beautiful. As soon as I laid my eyes on it, I loved it.
It is beautiful. And how did it come to be yours?
It's a lovely little story, actually, and that's partly why I wanted to bring it today and it be my special item. So when my daughter first started primary school, there was a lady, so she was in reception. I didn't really know any of the other mums. It was very new scenes. And there was this lady, she looked right up my street, colourful clothes, really vibrant personality, which I love in people. And she had this bag on. And I'd never spoken to her.
And you thought, I'm having that.
Yeah. I was, eyeing up the prize. Eyeing up the prize. And I just said to her one day, I was like, your bag is so beautiful. I was like, I love Frida Kahlo. I've never seen a bag like that before. Where did you get it? And she said, I actually got it off Etsy. And I went home, I had a look, could never find it on there. Told her, I was like, I couldn't find it, I'm gutted. But, you rock it. And then it was around Christmas time, and I was going through a bit of a crappy time, but no one knew that anyway. And we'd come back after the half term, and the mum approached me with this bag, like a Christmas bag, and inside was something wrapped up. And then she passed it to me, and I felt a bit awkward because I was like, oh gosh, this woman's bought me a Christmas present. I've only spoken to her a few times. So I took it home. And I opened it, and inside she had wrapped me up, the bag, and it had a little note, and it said, it was always yours.
Oh, that's
and
lovely.
It made me feel so happy that I felt like I wanted to cry. And I was like, that is probably one of the most sweetest things anyone has thought to do and done. And I just thought, what a blooming nice person. What a lovely human being to do something like that. But also I was like, oh my God, she's given me this bag. That's amazing. So I saw her on the school run that afternoon, and I was like, oh my gosh, that made me feel like incredible. And she was like, no, she was like, from the first time I saw you and you mentioned the bag and how you loved her, and she was like, you're so quirky, like it's just always been yours. And then from that, like, act of kindness, I think that really also, her doing that then really inspired me to also do little things like that, because she didn't know I was going through a bit of a crappy time. And her doing that just made me feel so much better. And I thought, oh my gosh, I want to do that for someone. So now, since then, I have done little things that I think people would really love. And it also just really opened a really lovely friendship between us as well.
That's amazing. That's a lovely story. This is spread the
love.
Spread the love. Pay it forward. Yeah.
Yeah.
I love that.
Every time I look at it, it's just got that story behind it. Every time I look at it, it also reminds me of how I felt when I received it.
Yeah, that's brilliant. I love that story.
Moving on to you, Saskia. What is your object? Why have you brought it in today?
So, I was in the bathroom this morning, brushing my teeth, and I looked and noticed this object. It's a ceramic vase, I guess. I mean, I guess it's a vase. It could be a vase, but it's also a kind of object in itself, isn't it? So basically it's a giant nose.
Yeah, that's... But I love
Let's
it.
get real here. It's a big old hooter.
Yeah, a bit... I've never seen anything like that before.
It's
and it's quite a small... It has the pocket to be a vase, but it's quite small, isn't it? The vase itself, but the nose is very big.
Yeah,
and
it's about 7 inches tall, or okay.
The size of the nose. It's bigger than a human nose. It's probably, to scale, 10 times as big as your actual nose.
It's 10 times bigger than my nose.
It does look a little bit like your nose as well.
Oh yeah, kind of squashy at the front.
It does. It literally does look like a giant size of your nose.
Anyway, it's green. It's pale green. It's a giant nose. This giant nose was brought to me by my daughter. So when I arrived in Norwich, I think June of 2021.
Yeah, that was around then. It was when because it was not long after we started this project, was it? Not long before we started?
Yes, I'd lived in Norwich for 6 months before I became a community connector. And when I got the job as the community connector, because I'd applied for a few jobs, I arrived in Norwich with not much really. Me and my daughter arrived, and I'd been applying for a few jobs. I'd had a few interviews and no luck. And then a flyer came through my other daughter's door, and basically the upshot was I got the job. Yeah, so my daughter came round one day and said, I bought you a present to celebrate you getting the job. And she presented me with this nose. And I just thought, oh my gosh, that's so perfect, because basically, as far as I can tell, my job is kind of to be nosy.
That is, I love that, because it's really is.
Yeah, so this is my object, a giant nose, because I get paid to be nosy. So yay. Yeah, it signifies new job, new start. Community Connect work's just been amazing. Like
meeting me,
meeting you. Yeah, I think there is room for these objects in the shoebox. I hope our guests have slightly smaller objects, because they're not going to fit.
They're not going to fit.
So our project is now coming to an end, our Community Connect project.
It makes me so sad.
Yeah, it is kind of sad that this is ending, and I think that is the nature of sort of short fun, although it's run longer than we were
so originally it was actually meant to just be a 6-month project, and here we are 3 and a bit years later, so it has gone on a lot longer than we anticipated, and we are really grateful for that. And I do think it definitely needed that extra time.
It is a massive extension of time, but it feels like we're almost just beginning in some ways.
No, really. So, it really does feel that way.
Yeah, so as we are coming to the end of this project, what we're very keen to do now is feed back to the community what we've learnt, and share that with the community in many different ways, this podcast being one of them. We've had over 5,500 conversations with local residents, and
Which is amazing in itself, I think.
Yeah, and we're keen to feed that back in ways that is more than just pie charts and data interpretation. And we hope that residents will also perhaps be inspired to set things up for themselves. It's basically, yes, this part of it is coming to a close, but it's also, we see it as a kind of springboard to see where we can all go next. You've been listening to the Mancroft episode of Community Unboxed. For more information, head to theshoebox.org.uk.
Thank you for listening to Community Unboxed. If you're feeling like you'd like to connect more with the community around you, the Shoebox is an amazing place to start. There's something there for everyone, so please get in touch with us. Head to theshoebox.org.uk and get involved.